Let's see you jump.
The Book of Boba Fett drives me up a wall. I recently finished the show and I decided to give it some time to really digest what I've seen because my initial reaction to the finale was not good. So the way this video is going to break down is I'm going to start by talking about story and characters. Then I'm going to finish with things I don't like and who this show is for and who it's not. Okay, starting with... The show starts with Boba Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. This kind of justifies the fact that he's alive after what we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, this show is written using a parallel narrative storytelling technique. That means they're going to tell two stories at the same time. This keeps things from getting stale, which can happen when you linger in a story too long. But it also builds anticipation when you jump from one story to another. Why this works is psychological. When something is taken from you, you want it more. And they were smart to tell the story this way because present-day Boba wants to kind of peacefully and respectfully rule in place of Jabba the Hutt. Since he's gone, he's trying to take over his empire. And without the backstory, it would be hard to understand how Boba Fett goes from heartless bounty hunter to like governor, quote unquote, of a territory. And the overarching theme of this show is surprisingly family. Boba Fett earns his place in a tribe of Tuskens. He tragically loses that family, but he's learned what true strength is from them and comes to the realization that he could only accomplish so much on his own. So present day, he decides to start his own house and build his own family. And that's basically the plot of the show. Boba has to overcome obstacles standing in the way of ruling Jabba's empire. And there's a lot of obstacles. Jabba's family, mayor of the city, the Pike Syndicate. He's gonna need a lot of help if he has any hope of overcoming these obstacles, which brings us to... There's a lot of characters in this show, and they're all diverse and unique in both style and motivation. Now, each character may have very different wants, but they all have the same internal need, which is family. I like when they develop characters that all tie into the same overarching theme of a show, and they do a really good job of that with Boba Fett. I'm going to give you two examples of what I'm talking about here. At some point, Boba Fett has to deal with a street gang of kids who are stealing water. Now, they're stealing water because they can't afford it. They can't afford it because there's no jobs. Boba ultimately decides to pay off their debt and then hire them to work for him. Doing this earns their trust, but also Boba needs smart, street-savvy muscle. And they need money. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone here, and I like the way it developed. I kind of gave you the brief version of what happens here, but I like the details of how this story develops, why the kids are doing what they're doing, the circumstances behind it, how Boba ends up taking them in to work for him because he realizes these kids aren't stupid. But I don't even necessarily love these characters. One of my favorite characters in the show is the Chrysanthemum. He's a Wookiee and champion gladiator sent by the Hutt family to kill Boba Fett. Now, Boba Fett narrowly survives this encounter and captures the Chrysanthemum. And without having to go through telling you the whole story of what happens, the Hutts actually end up gifting the Chrysanthemum to Boba Fett because they just don't want to have to deal with any war on Tatooine. They're kind of more interested in business and money. So when they gift the Wookiee to Boba Fett, he realizes that if he just enslaves him to work for him, he's not that strong an ally. But if you free him, maybe he comes back to you if he needs work, and that would make him a much stronger ally. This is the kind of character development you're going to get in Boba Fett. It's pretty good. It's not Shakespeare, but it is good. It's entertaining, and I like the way they do these things. Okay, let's talk about Mandalorian. People seem to be really upset that there's a whole episode and like a half of just Mandalorian in this show. I think they're missing the point because the reason they do it like this is they're kind of telling you what Mandalorian is doing during the timeline of Boba Fett, which is basically getting kicked out of the Mandalorian order. The reason that's important is because it kind of ties into the theme of family. He just lost his family, not the same way that Boba Fett lost his with the tribe of Tuskens, but he is now searching for a purpose and a reason. Boba Fett just happens to need help at this time, so it lines up that he wants to help Boba Fett, is also looking for something of like a family to join, help, and give him purpose. And if I'm being honest, the Mandalorian episode is so cool and beautiful and entertaining that even if it didn't have these story beats in it, I wouldn't have cared. I loved it so much. I'm just all in on that world. I love the armor because I'm very interested in blacksmithing and machine shops anyway. So seeing this stuff in the Mandalorian, I just love it. I love the costumes. I think the armor's helmet is one of the coolest out of all of them. So I don't understand why people are so angry about the Mandalorian episodes. Okay, I want to talk about the things I don't like, and I'm going to start with Luke and Grogu in this show. Now, I am all for watching Luke train Grogu in the Jedi way or whatever, but the training scenes are boring. Like, he floats some frog. It's like Luke telling Grogu things Yoda told him, and that's supposed to move me in some kind of way, but it just doesn't. I think partially because the uncanny valley feeling I get from looking at CGI Luke's face. There's just something about it off-putting to me, and it's probably mental because I know it's CGI, that it's really messing with me, but I don't like it. But on top of that, like, there's the scene where Luke straps Grogu to his back. He's like, oh, I need you to have this big revelation. So he's running through the forest, he's flipping around, he's jumping around, and he climbs up some bamboo that couldn't support a pineapple, and they get to the top of it, and he's like, look, Grogu, and they're overlooking these mountains. He's like, we're all connected, or everything's connected. And I'm like, I just don't like it. It's so stupid. Okay, getting away from that, there is a scene where Boba Fett chases this little droid that's so hammy that I just can't stand it. I get that he needs the droid not to like alert everybody that he's there, but the way that it's done is so cheesy. It's just not for me. And I know people do like these comedic relief kind of things, but I just don't like how this one was done. There's also the problem of a few of the action scenes in this show are awful. They're slow, clunky, and just hard to look at. I don't know if it's that there were mistakes made on the day of shooting or it's lazy editing, because I feel like you could just do some sharper cuts and some speed ramping or time remapping and these scenes would be fine, but it really feels like unathletic 40-year-olds running through a movie set when I watch it. Then there's the issue of plot holes. So at some point, Boba Fett wants to find his armor, and he decides to go back to the Sarlacc pit with his ship to do that. Now, we clearly saw him in the beginning of the show climb out of the Sarlacc pit wearing his full armor. So I don't know why Boba Fett thinks the Sarlacc stripped the armor off him and ate it, but left him there to go back and find his armor in the Sarlacc. I just don't understand. I feel like they were like, oh man, there's too many slow moments in the show. We gotta ramp up the tension by having him fly his ship into the mouth of the Sarlacc and see what happens. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. Then there's the finale. It's so bittersweet for me because I love the finale scene for so many reasons that I also kind of hate. Like, I love shootouts, but at one point, Mandalorian and Boba Fett are standing in the middle of the street fighting like 25 Syndicate members, and they never get hurt. Like, these 25, 30 Syndicate dudes can only shoot the 5 patches of armor these guys have who are standing in the wide open. And you got Syndicate like at ground level, you got them on the first floor of a building, you got them on the roof of a building, all these angles, nobody's hitting anything but armor. That doesn't make sense to me. Then the Syndicate rolls out these shielded spider droid tanks, basically. And of course, infantry level troops with rifles and pistols can't really do much against these. So Boba Fett goes, I have a great idea. I'm gonna run home and go get my fleshy pet Rancor, smash through town on this thing to fight these tanks. Now, as cool as this is to watch, okay, my problem with this is, why didn't he bring the Apache-style spaceship capable of ground assault instead of a fleshy pet? Like, you're taking the chance of getting this awesome Rancor killed, which is just stupid. I wouldn't bring my dog to a gunfight if I have an Apache helicopter sitting in my damn garage. We saw him mow down an entire biker gang with this ship, but he doesn't want to use that against these tanks. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it all. And the worst of the things I don't like are these damn scooters. I am convinced these are an inside joke between the creators of this show, because I have not met a single person who believes they belong here. Those are the problems I have with the show. I hate parts of it, but I love most of it. The problems I have with the show didn't take away enough for me to not enjoy it. I really did like this show, even with the small problems. So who is this show for, and who is it not? If you like the world building of Star Wars and you're interested in more stories in that world that aren't necessarily about the apotheosis of the Jedi, this is a space western set in the lawless frontier of Tatooine. If that sounds good to you, then this is probably the show for you. But some of the execution of the story and cinematography are bad. So if you're the person who watched Avengers Endgame and you had a problem with the time travel doesn't make sense, but you're fine with the talking raccoon, Book of Boba Fett is not for you. If technical inaccuracies are going to bother you enough that it takes you out of the immersion of the world you're in, then the show is not going to make you happy, friend. Move on. Find something else. That's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.